next speaker, and he's a professor in Germany, and also a leader of the Center for Industry and Sustainability in the Industrial Park in Frankfurt Höchst. Is that the name? Is that the way you say that? And Mr. Utikal is the Professor for Strategic Management and Sustainability in Provadis School of International Management and Technology in Frankfurt. And by the way, was also the lead of climate kick activities in the region of Frankfurt. So I very warmly welcome our next speaker, Professor Hannes Utikal. With your support, I hope.
Thank you. Oops. I'm glad to be here. When I've received the invitation, I said, oops, should I really go there? It's a long travel. But then I was told, oh yeah, if there's one of the different partner regions we've got within Climate Kick for the accelerator program, Latvia would be a place to go, and I need to have the discussion with you and how you organize your lab here, for instance, because that's a role model to a certain degree to the activities we've got there in Frankfurt as well. The brief talk I will give is about reinventing chemistry. Has anyone studied chemistry here in the room? Oh, quite a few, so I haven't. But my role is that I'm part of the Industrial Park Frankfurt Höchst. Is there anyone in the room who has heard the name Höchst before? Höchst Corporation, maybe? Yes, there are some gray hair raising the hand. Perfect, thank you. Höchst Corporation was one of the largest chemical and pharmaceutical companies in the world, with a history of more than 100 years. But then, around 20 years ago, this company fell down. By now, we've got a huge industrial park still, with different companies there. We've got 22,000 people working in this industrial park, Frankfurt Höchst. And the topic we are addressing is, how does this industry evolve over time? And how should we design those transition processes? Because the core message I've got is that we do not believe that just focusing on one specific scientific discipline will be sufficient for having ongoing success. But the core topic is that you've got excellence in one discipline, but you are able to reinvent your own discipline and activities over and over again. So my topic is, how can we develop a sustainable chemical industry and what competencies are needed for that? I'm part of the Provadis group. Provadis is a private education provider based in this industrial park, Frankfurt Höchst. We're doing vocational training up to bachelor and master degrees. We organize for Climate Kick as well PhD summer schools, but we are a university of applied sciences with 1,300 students. 400 of them are working at the same time at the Deutsche Telekom, the German telecommunication provider. And we are specialized in part-time study programs where people work and then they've got one day a week and a Saturday lectures, for instance. We are closely connected to companies in the industry. We've got a specific focus on the industry, and you see a lot of the big chemical companies named there as well. They are part of our organization. When we're talking about how do we organize our own organization, we are a private university. We do not receive public funds for study programs, so our students pay, or the companies they are paying. The total university has a revenue of around 10 million euro, and we've got something like 4 million euro in European projects. And that's the part where I'm working at the Center for Industry and Sustainability, where we support the industry in their transition. And we're doing, for instance, together with RTU, the Pioneers program with Climate Kick, or the Startup Clean Tech Accelerator program. So if you have a look at this chemical industry, it changed a lot over the years. In the past, we had this fully integrated companies like the company Höchst. And by now, we've got a lot of smaller companies, and they're redefining their boundaries again and again. And from our understanding, this has huge implications with regard to the competencies that are needed by companies and by employees. We've been working on the topic, what are the management implications of megatrends for the chemical industry? And there we analyzed as well how aware are companies with regard to the relevant business models. There is one Harvard professor saying that by now the chemical industry would have to reinvent itself in order to remain meaningful, saying that the chemical industry should not only focus on molecules any longer, but much more on systems, on the outcomes they are generating, and better understanding how they are creating impact on the side of their customers. So that's what he's saying, we have to reinvent ourselves as an industry to remain meaningful. If you have a look at the current discussions between Bayer and Monsanto, you can realize how Bayer Corporation, focusing on digital farming, tries to remain meaningful, saying they're not only providing the seeds any longer, but they are trying to offer a whole set of system activities, devices and sensors, consultancies and software, so that the farmers around the world can increase their yield. If you go as a company in this direction, of course you need to have other capabilities in your company. It's not only about chemistry any longer, it's as well about chemistry and business, chemistry and IT. It's about understanding how farmers' business model is working. So you need to handle a higher complexity. And business model innovation is a huge topic in this sense. So if we are providing this kind of service for the farmer, how do we make money? In the past, we made the money related to the seeds we were selling. Maybe one day we will provide the benefit of increasing yield, and we could maybe just capture the money by the increased yield. So we'd have another reference point for our own products. It's not the seed any longer, but it's the increased yield. So thinking about how you can make money as a chemical company gains increasing importance, because there are a variety of options how you can generate money. It's not any longer by the tons or by the kilograms of seed or molecules you're selling. It's about the outcome you're producing, the benefits you're creating. And this requires a mindset on the side of the chemical companies. They need to be much more customer and value-driven in comparison to the traditional technology orientation they had. So I will just briefly show, if we are on how the chemical industry has to reinvent itself, they need to understand first the existing business models. They need to have the capabilities to design new business models, and they need to transform their own business models. If you have a look at this, traditionally, companies are just following their own business model for years and years and years. And you see like Blockbuster, the video rental organization in the US, that after a while, it doesn't work any longer. Now we've got Netflix, no one needs Blockbuster any longer. So the topic is, how can you open up, as a company, your own perception of the business? Chemical companies like the Höchst Corporation, they had huge problems in realizing that they would have to reinvent themselves. And the ecosystem and the collaboration with startups might help in order to reflect on the own business model they are having. In our study we did together with the German Chemical Association, we realized that the more successful companies, based on their own evaluation, think much more about their own business model. They have a better knowledge about their own business model in comparison to those who are just going on with their own sense. So having intelligence with regard to the own business model may be a driver for ongoing success. If you think about what does digitalization mean for the pharma and the chemical value chain, then you will realize that especially in pharmaceutical, there will be a huge change with regard to the business model. So we will have in the future a lot of integrated activities. If you've got the patient here in the center, then we've got IT all around, and the topic will be that pharmaceutical companies like Sanofi we've got in Frankfurt, they need to have integrated health offerings. They don't have this yet. They need to have a customer experience management across all different activities. They don't have this yet. They need to have digital touchpoint excellence. They don't have this yet. They need a lot of analytics in order to improve the way they are treating the patients. They don't have this yet. So, meaning these are huge opportunities for collaboration between startups and companies in the pharmaceutical field. And of course, they've already realized that they have to open up. They are joining accelerator programs. Sanofi's got something in Berlin with regard to the digitalization and the customer interaction. But that's just the beginning. There's still a lot of room for improvement. And we are trying to use this challenge at being based in Frankfurt Höchst as well. In Frankfurt Höchst, we've got the topic that we've got a huge industrial park with a lot of energy consumption. So if you've got great ideas with regard how to increase energy efficiency, I would be very interested in gathering your information and would like to bring it together with those decision makers in Frankfurt in order to check whether there would be a market need for your products. So that would be the impact of digitalization on pharma. If you have a look, what does digitalization mean for the chemical companies, so the specialty chemical companies, it's just the focus on research development, supply chain, and big data, but it's not about the whole interaction with the customer. So you see that the same external effect, the same megatrend, has huge difference in terms of impact, whether you are part of a pharmaceutical company with this very strong interaction with the final client, or whether you're part of a B2B chemical producer, same megatrend, huge difference in terms of business model. So, first part, what we try to do in Frankfurt is that we reflect together with the companies about the impact of those trends on their own business model. Second part is we want to increase the capability of designing new business models. Can we apply some of these business models for the chemical industry? Yes or no? And if so, how can we do so? And we've realized as well that the successful companies are much stronger in terms of reflecting about their business model in comparison to those who are weaker in terms of competitiveness. So we see still a need that chemical companies need to increase their capability to think about new business models. There are all those great buzzwords you can find in Germany at the moment. It's all about the circular economy, but what is the related business model? It's all about digitalization, but what is the related business model? So we are trying to bring those big trends and terms down to earth so that companies can start to reflect what do those trends mean for their own business model today and in the future. So we try to increase, together with those companies, their strategic learning capability. And that's why I'm glad to be here. We are thinking about having this kind of business model innovation lab together with others so that companies can come together with participants from academia, with students, and discuss about alternative business models to find more ways of making intelligent profit. And the third part is that having reflected about your business model, having thought about the new options you've got, then it's all about how can you transform your company. And transforming a very old and hierarchical and traditional company like the chemical company is a huge challenge for them. And there, again, we try to support those companies on site by having specific further education offers to those companies. We believe very much in challenge-oriented education offers, not being discipline-oriented or just humanities or one thing, but we'll focus on specific challenges a company or a city may have, and then we group the education offers around in order to increase their transition capability. So thinking about what are the skills that are needed, we believe that companies need to improve their transition capabilities. They need to be able, in the light of, especially in Germany at the moment, the energy transition, chemical companies need to be able to have this networking capabilities, to have this public discussion, being able to influence, lobby for their own interest in the public arena as well, because we've got a huge energy transition project in Germany where all different stakeholders are involved, and companies need to have the capabilities to maneuver in these fields with different stakeholders and different political actors. So we believe that companies need to have in-depth knowledge in one field, plus interdisciplinary skills. You see here, if you have a look at the picture, that the chemical industry is not very diverse yet. And with our activities, so we've got one gender, one age, one qualification, one social background. And with our activities, we try to open up the industry. Last year, for instance, we did a PhD summer school on open innovation in the chemical industry. And there was an interdisciplinary PhD summer school together with Climate Kick. We had as well people from humanities working on how to organize an innovation hub. It was not only about chemistry specialists working together, it was about with other competencies as well. And that worked very, very perfectly at the end. So there are new and creative insights you wouldn't have received with a less diverse setting. Another huge topic we've got is that the traditional way of educating in Germany was you did your school, then you did your study, and then you did your work program. By now, we all know that due to this Bologna reform, we've got all those different ways. School, bachelor study program, work, master study, or bachelor further education, work, or whatever. We do believe that the opportunities related to this Bologna reform are not fully exploited yet. At least in Germany and with regard to the chemical industry, we can say that it's very much still focused on full-time study program chemistry, bachelor and master, then a PhD study program afterwards, and then you start your career. From the perspective what we've heard before, if we're talking about this business model innovation, this agile way of making business, you will realize that having just 10 years full-time university study programs may be not the best way to have the qualification in order to adapt to the changing environment. And we believe that there is still room for improvement to have a more modular approach for qualifying managers in the chemical industry than we had in the past. So what we believe is that we should have more challenge-based learning, that we could have more application orientation, more interdisciplinary activities, and a more modular approach than the approach we had in the past. We're working as well about how can we certify competences people have. How do we certify maybe entrepreneurship skills? There's one Climate Kick project, the Certified Professional, where you offer people the option that they can have a certification for the qualification they've received in practice. Maybe if you've done a startup program for 2, 3, 4, 5 years and you have not been successful, so it could be a huge disaster for your CV, at least in Germany. For Germany, it might be helpful to have a specific certificate showing what you have learned over all those years. So we are thinking more about how can we value learning outcomes that have become over the years, not only at the university level, but as well in the practitioner level, so that it can be evaluated across Europe much more easier than it was possible in the past. So, if I just summarize this, we see the chemical industry as an industry in transition. We believe that the industry has room for improvement with regard to their business model innovation capabilities. We believe that we've got great opportunities for collaborating with other disciplines, much more than we did in the past. And we believe that the ecosystem dimension is extremely important in order to bring new ideas into this established industry. That's why what we are doing in Frankfurt, for instance, we're doing a Climate Kick accelerator program in the clean tech field. We're doing this on the one hand in Frankfurt, focusing on clean tech, where we bring startups together with this huge industrial park. But we're doing this as well together with 9 countries in Europe, and Latvia is one of them, where we bring together the startups as well to Frankfurt, and if they've got a clean tech related idea, we can just confront them with the market needs in this industrial park. So we just can improve the exchange between startups across Europe and the established industry in Germany. That's one option where we try to bring in new ideas into this established industry. In addition, we are working as well on different education projects on the circular economy, where we try to bring together different actors in this circular economy, not only from the chemistry part, but as well consumer goods producer and civil society. Or another format we've got is we did this PhD summer school on the energy transition in Frankfurt, and that was not about product innovation, it was all about social and system innovation. Because the city of Frankfurt has the goal of saying that by 2050 they just want to have energy from renewable sources. And from today's knowledge, it's totally impossible to realize this. All the energy based on renewable resources. So if we would like to follow this goal, we would need to have a huge change in the way we are using energy and our own mobility systems. And what we did as a challenge was that the students have been working on the topic, how can the city engage with citizens in order to reflect about the way how they do their mobility, how they do their household, whatever activities, so that their change process can be organized. Meaning that our activities in the ecosystem, they do relate on products, yes. They do relate on process, optimization, energy efficiency, yes. But we use as well this location of this industrial park to have as well a focus on social innovation and system innovation where different actors have to work together. And by doing so, we hope to strengthen this ecosystem. And by doing so, we, another point I would like to make. The international dimension for us is very helpful there, because Frankfurt is a very, very structured city. With a lot of organizations there on the ground. And for us, this climate and international relation is very helpful in order to overcome the local communities, to bring them together. So that's why we are interested as well in working together with startups from 9 countries, because they can fuel in new ideas into this established industry there. They come up with fresh ways of thinking. And by this, we bring together new coalitions in the region. So having the international exposure on the one hand, and the local grounding just brings the meaningful innovation. That's what I want to mention. So we believe the chemical industry is an industry in transition, and I just would like to invite you to build on this new way of organizing in the chemical industry. Thank you.
Do you have any questions? Yes.
How I can join this program?
Which one?
The
climate kick activities you can join via Line. I think Line is in the room. Or otherwise we just exchange business cards. And I will show you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, that's a very practical question. We have a few more questions. Weisreiter has a question, so I have to give him. All right.
Yeah.
You guys wait.
Okay, thank you. You know, the model when you mentioned about more merging academia with you know, industry in a way they are educated, do you have idea about the indicators you use to measure progress or success of the program? Because I mean, normally we follow the number of students graduate and so on and so on. Do you have any, not KPIs because they are set, I mean the number of startups and so on, but more or less, how do you know that the progress in the right direction?
So if we have a look in Germany at the number of PhDs in chemistry, I think it's around 1,200. And if you have a look how many of them start afterwards in the research and development department of a traditional chemical industry company, something like 800. So you've got 400 people who made a PhD over the years and who are not afterwards adequately employed because they've been trained for this position in the company. So you would say those 400 could have used another way in their qualification and maybe could have started working in industry 3 years earlier and be as productive as they are after having made their PhD and working afterwards in the strategic development department or in a sales department or whatever. So that's the way how we calculate it. But of course there are interests as well that people want to have this kind of education, right? University professors want to have their PhD students. Large corporations want to have highly skilled colleagues starting in the company. So for a lot of the traditional incumbents there, it's convenient to organize the education like this.
All right, we have a next question here.
Okay. Hello. Okay, just a minute. I'm sorry, I forgot your name, Mr. Hannes. My name is Shahzad Rahmanov. So I'm from Uzbekistan, but I'm studying in RTU. I'm a master program student, and there was two practical questions when I was living in Germany. I was doing my Erasmus life there. The first question, how people, how can I say, escape the paying of like rain in Germany. I mean, there was some rules for paying something like some bills. So I mean, when I was living in Germany, I was paying for the rain that comes to my roof. So how we can solve this problem with this program?
I haven't understood your payment scheme. So, for what have you been? For the rain coming through the roof?
Yes, there was such kind of thing in Germany. I was living in Pforzheim, and yes, there was things that like it was the kind when the.
I'm sure it was worth it. I've got no idea.
Yeah, there was such kind of thing. And the second question about the fuel emission in Germany. In some days, some cars are not going to outside. Because of the fuel emission and stops to go in the cars, how we can solve this problem as well with this program?
Yeah, that's a huge topic as well. So it will be one of the local challenges. You know that in Germany you've got the problem that we've got very poor air quality and several days a year in the larger cities. And there's currently the discussion whether cities have to be closed for cars. And currently there are engineers working on it, but there are as well other disciplines working on how to change mobility behavior, for instance, so that people are using more the public transportation system and so on. There could be a perfect challenge for one of the programs, how to change mobility behavior in cities.
Yep. Just take the bicycle. All right?
So thank you very much for your talk. I have very short two questions. The first one, what is the population in the Frankfurt area?
700,000.
Pardon?
700,000 in the city of Frankfurt,
yeah,
and in the greater region it's 2 million.
2 million around, yeah, okay. So the second question, you said that you are strengthening or improving collaboration between different disciplines. Could you provide any specific example?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
The example I gave briefly was the topic of this PhD summer school, for instance, where we had a challenge like the energy transition, and PhD students from around the world came together to work on this topic, and then we had input from different disciplines, from theory and from practitioners as well, so that the students could grasp the problem from different dimensions. That's one field on the PhD level. In our bachelor programs, for instance, we've got joint lectures. For instance, they're all doing together a business plan competition, and where it's necessary that chemical engineers work together with management students, for instance, and those with an IT background. So that's as well in the basic module level organized.
All right. The next question is here.
Thanks for your presentation. I wanted to ask, you mentioned, I guess it will be more like a follow-up to the previous question with a more specific idea. How do you have a case study or an example of how exactly humanities students are integrated into projects like that or startups in Germany?
So what I can tell you from own observation, if we're talking about the PhD summer school, the 2-week program, and the first week they are all just having a look at each other. Ooh, I don't like to work with this person, with this engineer, or with this person from social sciences. And then they've got this kind of storming phase where they realize that the additional perspectives generate benefits for the program and for their own results. And at the very end of the program, they say the best part of it was not the input they've received from professors or whatever. The best part was that they've learned to collaborate with others with another mindset. It was the most challenging on the personal level, but the most fruitful as well.
All right. The next question is here.
Thanks for your presentation. My name is Jānis Irbe. I'm from Riga, and I'm working also with Riga Technical University. My question is, you mentioned there are good value that is brought in Frankfurt region, working with those 9 startup regions. So what do they get in return? What's the value that goes back to the startups?
I hope business.
Okay, like future business collaboration, or?
Yes, so they get in contact with potential clients, and if they provide value with their startup idea, then they will receive the funding or receive the money for it, right? So that's a direct win-win approach. Otherwise, it wouldn't. It's not for making just having a good time, right? I think we will hear from Israel as well how they are determined in order to have impact in this kind of collaboration, and that's the same what we are trying. So if we bring together a startup to a specific company, we can do this 1, 2, maybe 3 times on a goodwill basis, but then afterwards the company will say, oh, that's not helpful for me, so we need to do a screening before whether it can be helpful, yes or no. But what's always helpful is that the established companies learn as well from the new way of thinking from the startups, so that would be the lowest benefit on both sides. But it's about making money at the end.
It's a miracle. Caught it. Actually, you bring up an interesting, something that came about parenthetically for me was you brought up the value to the companies, bigger companies, of bringing in the startups, and then how do you decide whether or not there was actual value for the startup companies too? I think that's an important thing. And the other thing is that how do you go about, maybe it's different in Germany, how do you go about convincing startups that if you go and you share your idea, even with a non-disclosure agreement, that they're not going to steal that idea? Because that's a huge challenge for me in working with companies in precision oncology, for example.
So we ask whether the contact was helpful, yes or no, and all the activities, they are closely monitored. We've got standard evaluation tools, for instance. So in this program, there's a 6-month program. Startups receive money. They've got individual coaching. They've got joint workshops. And they've got some events where they are in structured contact with companies. And they've got individual contacts if they wish to. So we don't force them to open up to companies, but we recommend them to do so. There are different stages in this startup program. In the second stage, they need to check their own assumptions about the market reaction with interviews with potential clients. And in this context, they have to reflect as well how much they open up. And very often, by opening up more, they receive more feedback. So normally we encourage them in order to open up a bit more than they initially intended to. And we haven't experienced the case yet that the established company would have taken up the idea and the startup wasn't successful. So we have not had this experience yet.
All right. Thank you for being so active and complementing the presentation with those valuable questions. Thank you, Professor Utikal.